Hey everyone, it's Pastor Dave from St. John in Woodbury, Minnesota. Thanks for checking out today's 5 Minutes of Hope. Today's Friday, May 15th, and it is the end of another work week. So we've talked about this all the time, that with everything going on, days kind of get smashed together. So again, maybe the weekend and weekdays don't make much of a difference, but if you've got plans for the weekend, I hope that they are good. And I know up here in Minnesota, it's a beautiful day. It's about 70 degrees. It's sunny, got a little breeze, and I think we're supposed to have a gorgeous weekend. So wherever you are, I pray that you are also blessed by beautiful weather, and that's another way to have your spirits lifted up during this time. So not only am I home, as you can tell again from the background and from the noises coming from the background from my family, but also, as you can see, I'm wearing a shirt and tie. So actually I did have a funeral this morning, and so we're going to talk about that a little bit and kind of allow that to be our devotional thoughts for this Friday. So again, we have a joke for the day and some devotional thoughts, and as we again get into this, as we close out our week of 5 Minutes of Hope, as always, I pray that you are filled with that peace, that joy, that hope that we have because we know what Jesus has done for us. So our joke for today is about a guy who got a speeding ticket. So there's a guy who got pulled over by a cop for speeding, and so the officer asked the man for his driver's license, and the guy responds, "Well, I don't have a driver's license." And the officer says, "Well, why not?" And the guy says, "Well, I lost it because I've had 4 DUIs." And so the cop says, "Oh, that's not good. So give me your registration." And he says, "Oh, I can't do that for you either." And the officer says, "Well, why not?" He says, "Well, I stole this car. It's not even mine." So the officer is getting obviously very concerned. He says, why did you steal this car? When did you steal it?" He's like, "Oh, not that long ago. In fact, I actually killed the owner and the body's in the back." By this point, the officer is, all, red flags are up. He's full alert. So he starts to back away from the car. He calls for backup. All of a sudden, there's a swarm of cop cars there. And the sergeant comes and yells at the guy to get out of the car. And the sergeant says, "Open the trunk." And the guy's like, "Why?" He says, "Well, we know that you killed someone and there's someone in the trunk." And the guy's like, "Okay." So pops open the trunk, there's nobody in there. And the sergeant is very confused. He says, "Well, do you have the registration for this car? The officer said that this was stolen." He's like, "No, it's not stolen. Here's the registration." And by this point, the sergeant is really confused. He says, "Well, do you have your license? The officer said that you didn't even have a driver's license." And the guy opens up his wallet, hands him his license, and it's a valid license. And gives it to him, and he says, "Yeah, this is a weird situation." He says, "Again, my officer here said that you had stolen this car, had killed the owner, and that you didn't have valid license or registration." And the guy starts to laugh. He says, "Yeah, I bet you the guy told you I was speeding too." There you go. So don't do that to try to get out of a speeding ticket. All right, do not try to use that tactic to get out of a speeding ticket. So, but again, a little bit of humor, some clever, but again, I do not condone that in any way, shape, or form. So, and don't speed either. That's always a good thing too. So, again, hopefully you enjoyed that little joke for today. So again, our devotional thoughts today are connected to the funeral I had today. So it's again, it's weird times. There's so much stuff going on, but one of the hardest things right now is when someone dies during this time. And so the funeral I had today was for a gentleman, and he had been battling some bad health. In fact, at the end, his heart is what gave out. But I talked about the fact that for this family, they felt cheated. Because it's one thing, to lose someone, to grieve their loss, and for this guy, he was still relatively young. He wasn't in his 80s, he wasn't in his 90s, he wasn't in his 100s, so he was still a younger guy, and so to not be able to spend the closing years of his life, with his family, there's an aspect of, we kind of lost that time. But to add insult to injury, with everything going on, we could only do a little graveside service. I was wearing a mask, the people were wearing masks. We weren't able to do a big celebration of life. And so even with that, kind of having that idea of being cheated out of a normal funeral, and even just kind of interacting with people. I was glad I was able to connect with the widow, and she was open to hugging me, and it's just one of those things right now. Even just a simple hug when someone's grieving, you just don't take that for granted, but you learn how beautiful that is. But again, the focus was on that, yeah, we are cheated. They did get cheated out of healthy years of life, with their loved one. They did get cheated out of a normal funeral, but Jesus is there with them. He's there with us. That during this time that you might even be sitting here right now saying, during this time of quarantine, I've got cheated out of this, and this. And Jesus says, yeah, you did. And we live in this fallen world, and we have been cheated out of things. But he always comes back and says, but I'm going to make it okay one day. One day everything will be right. Everything will be the way it's supposed to be. And so I guess that's my thoughts for us today as we go in the weekend, that if you're sitting here thinking, I've been cheated out of these experiences, I've been cheated out of time because of the pandemic, know that Jesus understands that. And Jesus assures us that, one day we'll experience what we long to experience. Again, a world without viruses, without a pandemic, that world where we get to dwell with Christ in his presence forever. So cling to that, especially right now if you feel cheated, and trust that God will one day make all things right.